Welcome to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. My name is Tyler. I am your host. Again, we are coming from 831 Club here in Butler. Still down here, still doing episodes. So we got a few more that we're gonna record. So if you're seeing this, you realize the backgrounds aren't the same as the other episodes. That's why. We're gonna cut back and forth between them. So with that being said, I am going to introduce my next guest, which is Jason. So Jason's here to tell us about his experience. So Jason, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Jason Beckwith. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and for me, I've been sober since 6/15 of 15. Just over 9.5 years, I believe. Well, a little less, actually. Currently, I live in Butler, Pennsylvania, where I grew up most of my life. And turns out the city's different than it was when I was out there ripping and running. I never thought I'd get sober in my hometown. I always thought I couldn't get sober in Butler. It was Butler's fault.
Well, yeah, it's so much easier to blame other people and take responsibility for your own actions.
Absolutely. That's definitely a major step I had to take, which was take responsibility for my life, stop blaming the world and the woes of the world for me being where I was at, man up, look in the mirror and accept that responsibility. Therefore, I could make changes to my life because ultimately I had the power to influence my life, and pretending that I had this victimology for, I spoke victimese very fluently for the first 28, 30 years of my life, and all that did was kept me in the mental prison, and I kept building more and more walls in that prison and not even realizing I was the architect of my own demise.
Yeah.
So, I grew up in Butler, small town. Originally, I came from Cranberry until I was like 7. We moved around every year till I was 11. So every year I'd start a new school district, be the new kid. We would move after the school year. We'd start another school system, be the new kid, up until I was 11. So for about 4 years back to back to back to back, I became accustomed to being the new kid. Moved to Butler, the bustling metropolis of Butler, PA. I think there's 30,000 people roughly in the city. For me, I grew up in rural areas, which was Mars, Cranberry. Cranberry before Cranberry blew up. Cranberry was like a one strip mall. There was a Kroger's and a Best Western. Now it looks like Strip Mall America. But at that time, there was nothing but hills and fields.
Yeah.
So I grew up.
And Verizon. They had the best Verizon call center. I remember.
Yes. Yes.
I lived in Aliquippa, and I remember being like, "Oh, if we could just go to Cranberry, we can get a good job over there." at Verizon."
My niece worked for them. That's one of the. So yeah, she worked there.
Yeah.
So they're like Evan City, all the outside areas of Butler, and they were all rural. So to go hang out with people, kids my age, I had to go a long distance. So mainly I was an isolated loner, but I had a couple friends here and there, associates, because they didn't live there long enough to really make those connections. I moved to Butler when I was 11. I instantly got in trouble with the law. I stole a TV guide out of a mailbox. I didn't realize it was a federal offense at the time as 11 years old.
Right there.
But they gave me 2 years probation, and I parlayed that until I was...
For a TV guide?
Yeah, because it was a federal offense. Like they thought they... at this time in Butler, crime was not that prevalent at the time. So the TV guide bandit was one of the, top stories of the Butler Eagle at the time.
That's hilarious.
So that was my first interaction with law enforcement, and I look back reflectively now and realize I have anti-authoritarian, deeply rooted within my system, still to this day actually, but I've used that as a strength today where it was a weakness before, because how I was directing that energy, it was to cause destruction in my life, or today it's to improve upon and help other people. So I've learned how to use these things as strengths that used to be weaknesses, and weaknesses turned into strengths, kind of. And that's where this process of recovery has really taken me, to be reflective and self-aware that I'll never be perfect, but I don't believe in being content but satisfied. I don't want to be content, but I'm satisfied where I'm at, and I know that there's a better version of me out there, and it's my job to go run it down. So 13, skipping school, even in 6th grade, I think I remember hiding out and I thought the cops just ran kids down for skipping school at this time, because I didn't realize. So we hid out, just beating the system, just for no apparent reason. Ended up getting more in trouble, retail thefts, just small petty stuff, vandalism probably. And I got locked up when I was 14. I went to George Junior Republic, and I ended up being there for a year. I got kicked out of George Junior, which I didn't know that was a thing possible, but then they sent me to Glen Mills. So I did about 20 months from the time I was 14 till I was 16 in juvenile facilities. So again, people coming and going. It became a theme in my life where human beings were there for a season, and that's pretty much how I looked at people. That connection on a human level was always missing for me, because I knew that these people wouldn't be there in my life long, so I viewed people as temporary.
I get that.
So once I got out at 16, I drank a little bit. I had graduated at 16 years old from high school, but I needed a year off because, I was stressed out as a 16-year-old with all these no responsibilities. So I took a year off, and I got a job at the Shop and Save that used to be actually right across the street from here, bagging groceries, collecting carts, making my own money. That's the first time I ever did that. But that was at 16, and then I didn't do much. Then I started, I hate the word, experimenting with marijuana. I was partaking in smoking of marijuana with people my age, and drinking to excess from the beginning. Alcohol tastes like shit, to be honest with you. To me, it was always for the effect, escaping
Absolutely.
myself. It was never, oh my God, this vodka. Because first of all, when you're 16, you're buying $6 vodka. It's like somebody.
Wave.
Yeah. Nikolai was like top shelf at this point in my life. So we would drink alcohol and just do stupid kid stuff. At 17, I did a couple burglaries, breaking into buildings. We were kids, but stupid. They followed footprints in the snow, because it didn't take Columbo to solve that case. So they
Walked right back to your house.
Well, yeah, they just followed our tracks. But we were 17. We weren't thinking everything through. So I ended up getting moved up at this point at 17. They certified me because I already had did 20 months as a juvenile, and they just put me in the Butler County Jail. And when I first went in there, I still remember the fear. Like, oh my God, there's going to be Bubba in here, and I'm going to have to stab somebody, or there's going to be something crazy happening, and I'm not with that. And the first night I was there, somebody filled out a commissary sheet. This was in the 90s, so we're talking. Somebody filled out somebody's commissary sheet, and people on the block told on the individual. And instantly I knew juvenile was worse than the adult facility, because you wouldn't do that in a juvenile facility.
Right.
So I kind of lost that fear. And as we were discussing earlier outside this, I accepted that this was part of the lifestyle. I got out, I did 5 months the first time I was in there. I got out drinking, started eating painkillers. Vicodin was around, so eat handfuls of them, maybe some perks, things like that. But those were every once in a while when they were available. Benzos, Valium was around once in a while. Just anything didn't really matter. I partaked in the facilitation of distributing of LSD, When I was younger, that was kind of my hustle. So I sold that. Jerry Garcia passed away, kind of messed up my pipeline. So I moved on. At that point, I had done like a 1/4 gram of cocaine. Some biker had it and was just trying to be cool kids, so we bought a 1/4 gram of it. And I had this brilliant idea that if I bought some of this stuff, I could sell that instead of the acid, because I couldn't get acid no more. So I bought some and started using that. And turns out I'm addicted to pretty much anything that helps me escape me.
No shit.
Yeah. I went around town pretending I was law enforcement and robbing drug dealers that came from out of town. I call it robbing. They willfully handed over the products using words like felony narcotics and things like that. And everybody told, too. That's crazy. They were telling their own connections, and I wasn't even a police officer. And I thought I had won the lottery with a great move to be able to continue my habit. And it was like that game show, Tell 'em What He Won, Bob. Years and years and years of jail stays and rehabs and miserable existence. You know, leaving rehab thinking that you win, and you end up having a big L on your... I tricked my counselor. Oh, guess what? What did you get for that? Oh, I get to go home and live a miserable existence, go to jail, and collect all these misconceptions I had about life, like I was always trying to get over. So I ended up having a problem with cocaine. I had a problem with alcohol. I'm an alcoholic. I drink it in excess till I black out, wake up with puke beside me, that kind of... Blame it on the girl that was with me. Like, hey, what did you throw up for? It was you. Tons of problems with drugs. And then I brought up the story about how I did that thing because we ended up removing somebody's... They handed me a bunch of money, and I went in one door and went out another door. And they came looking for me, so we moved to Florida when I was 21. Speed it up because we all know how to get high. If you're on here, you probably... Moved to Florida, and at that time it was alcohol, marijuana, and obviously the cocaine when it was available. Moved to Florida, became a full-fledged alcoholic down there and pothead because I didn't have the connections, didn't even look. I ended up getting a job right away. I worked at the same company for like 4 or 5 years, drank every weekend, every day off pretty much. And then I got hurt playing football down there and was prescribed Oxycontin. I remember it because they were 20 milligram and they were small, round pills. And I had been used to eating Vicodin ESs, which are 750s. They're like a horse pill almost. And you're eating 20 of them, and the acetaminophen's killing your stomach. And I'm not making light of it. This is just my story. And I seen these small ones. So as I'm an addict, I ate 2 right away and instantly threw up. Well, probably within seconds, threw up. But I didn't care that I was throwing up because the euphoric feeling that I had. Like, I disregarded the fact, like, I'm sober, been sober 9.5 years roughly. If I get sick and need to throw up, I try to swallow my spit. I try to do everything not to throw up. Yeah. I don't like doing that. But in that lifestyle, throwing up means more than likely you either got something really good in my mind, my sick, twisted...
I get it. I mean, the first time I did heroin, that was the thing. Like, I threw up everywhere and was like, oh, this is so great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, it's just disgusting. Like, that's
disgusting.
Just our mindset, you know?
And instantly, it had a hold of me because of it helped me escape reality. It helped me escape me, the anxiety of being me, the fear that somebody would see me, the false persona and facade that I was putting out to the world because I was so fearful and fear-driven as a human being that using Oxycontin, it just made me, not only did it remove the physical pain, the mental pain, the worry, the anxiety, gone. It was like the super warm blanket put over top of me. But there's a price to pay, and at that time I didn't realize that there would be a price. So I ended up getting prescribed down in Florida Oxycontin for like 4 years.
Of course, those were the doctor mills.
Yeah, it was
back then. One doctor to the next.
Yeah, and there was, and listen, it is what it is. I take full responsibility. I was already an addict at the time, but it definitely plays a role in my life of the openness of the availability to get Oxycontin 40s, 80s, and we're talking, I think I was getting 270 80s towards the end a month.
Yeah, I mean, in my active addiction, I ended up in Florida, out not to live. Like, we would just go down once a month,
Yeah.
drive down there, because you just go from one doctor to the next doctor to the next doctor to the next doctor, and they would all just fucking hand you script after script after script after script.
Cash payments.
Yep. Then come up here and sell it $1 a milligram. It was awful.
Yeah, supply and demand. I mean, that's. Eventually, I had a son, my son that I was talking to you earlier about, helping me with maybe editing or doing something like that. I had him in 2000. I went down there in 97, 3 years, had him in 2000, was still working. Wasn't causing me much. It was causing me issues in my life, but not nearly what it ended up. So I ended up using Oxycontin until about 2003. For about 4.5 years. I ended up breaking up with my son's mother, moved back to Pennsylvania. I took 270 pills with me. I thought, I had been dope sick twice, that phrase. Didn't know that that's what it was. I thought I ate bad hamburgers twice. I didn't even know that I was dope sick. Like, I remember vividly it happening, but I'm like, oh my God, because it just, coincidentally, I had hamburgers both times. I was like, man, there must be some rotten meat around here. Came back to Butler, and all my friends had moved up to heroin at that time, IV drug using of heroin, and it was, I looked at them as they were, I'm going to say it because I used to say it back, they were junkies. I wasn't. I had a prescription, so.
Of course.
Even though one molecule difference of what they're using, but mine was prescribed and mine was from a doctor. Even though I hadn't had pain in 4 years, it's still, I was able to justify those behaviors. I was able to do that, and most of my friends, because heroin hit the wave it hit here, all the people I grew up with, at least in that circle, had already moved up and on to heroin. Had 270 pills ran out, and I remember the day that they ran out because I was laying on a couch, and my buddy, who had already moved on, told me I was dope sick. And I was like, man, I'm dope sick. I wasn't doing heroin. He's like, bro, you're dope sick. So I didn't want to believe him, but that was my first experience of being dope sick and realizing it. The other 2 times I didn't even know it. And he's like, look, you snort this little bump right here and you'll be fine. And it took me maybe an hour or 2 of negotiations in my brain to say, justifying it, I'm not using a needle. And I snorted it, and instantaneously that sickness was gone. And I was like, wow. And it was even stronger than the Oxycontin, which I didn't think was possible at that time. Either that or it hit me different. I don't know. All I know is I felt like it was the first time I did the Oxycontin again. So for about 2 weeks, I snorted it, and then my habit increased, and economics became a factor. And somebody told me that if I were to IV use this, I could use 2 bags instead of the 10 that I was using. And I overcame my fear of needles because of economics. I don't like needles even to this day, but I've seen a lot of people overcome their fear of needles in my life.
Absolutely.
And I started IV using heroin. 2003, I did that for like 2.5 years, and I realized my life was. I'd lose like a Backstreet Boy in 30 days. Like I got this big ass head, man. I walk around, I lose 50 pounds. I look like a coat rack walk. And we think we look good. That's the beauty. Yeah. Like I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, I can see my ribs, my heart beating through my shirt, stunting on it. Look at this tight ass shirt I got on. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I walked into rehab at 94 pounds. I was like, oh man, I look good. And then like when I sobered up, I looked at myself and I was like, holy fuck.
The body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
And your ability to see that you're walking around looking like you should be in that TV show, The Living Dead, or Walking Dead or whatever that show. I didn't see it yet. I'm waiting to, but and you think you look good because again, you build up these false realities to support or protect you from what you know to be true, is that you're not living correctly, you're dredge on yourself and other ones around you, and that shame inside of you your ego defends it with creating a reality that makes it supportive to continually do this, and justifiably. So then I realized that, so I knew I had to get off the heroin, so I moved back to Florida. And my buddies at that time were casually using cocaine, and they actually were kind of like once every couple of weeks. But I wasn't casually. Instantly, I started IV using cocaine down in Florida and realized that going from heroin to cocaine, at the time, I ended up coming back to Butler like a year and a half, 2 years later to get back on heroin, to get off the cocaine. And this was my mindset, because I could not perceive existing on this earth with no chemicals at all. That doesn't even sound real. Like, no pills, no alcohol, no weed, no nothing? You mean just Han Solo, just, sober? I couldn't fathom that even being a possibility for me. So I moved back and forth. I ended up getting on methadone, I think 2007, 2008. Was on that for like 2 years. Detoxed off of methadone in the Butler County Jail. They were very supportive of that detox. They put you in a cell and gave you what they call comfort meds. I don't know who came up with this
They were not very
term. There's no comfort involved in that.
No, they're not.
And I physically had tremors for 6 months, 6 weeks. Couldn't sleep, miserable existence. And I know people are like, well, you're in jail, it's not supposed to be counted. I get all that. I'm not saying I should have been treated any better. I caused the pain. That pain is what catapulted me into the life I am today. It just took me a while to build up enough pain.
Right.
And not everybody gets that opportunity, so I understand that there's no amount of pain that should be equal to somebody, making changes in their life, but that didn't stop me. I got off the methadone, dabbled a little bit here and there. In 2010, 2010, my 7-year-old son was killed in an automobile accident, Logan Beckwith. And at that time, I was I hate to say I was an alcoholic pothead. I smoked marijuana every day, and I drank after work. I worked at a hippie shop here. I'm not even going to mention the name, they don't need the badness, but I worked there and smelled like patchouli, if that's even how you prescribe it or describe or say the word, but which I hate that smell today. That's just me, though. Maybe because it correlates with that time in my life.
I love it.
But once my son passed away, I instantly called people that I knew, because I knew internally that what I had been doing to escape reality, enhance my life, cope with life, wasn't going to be sufficient to deal with that. And that's when I started partaking in benzodiazepine, and copious amounts of benzodiazepine, and back on heroin. At the time, it was still heroin.
So basically, you're just rolling around in a blackout.
Yes. What I called it was a chemical lobotomy.
Yeah.
And I thought I had made it. At one point, towards the end of my story, I'll speed it up because I feel like I'm doing a drug log, but at one point, I remember sitting in this guy's house I was staying with them because couch surfing, that's kind of some of the things that some of us do, I was doing. Well, the guy's house I was couch surfing at, he went to jail because he had a probation violation. And his girlfriend went to rehab. So I was left in this place all by myself. You think I was going to be like, well, I shouldn't be here. I had no place to live, so I was there. And then, of course, I stole all the copper pipes out of the place because that's what we do. Besides the ones that went to that bathroom, because I was like, you got to save a bathroom so I could use it. I got $80 for that, and I paid back $4,700 in restitution, which I've paid up today. It's all paid off. Not a good return on investment. $80 for $4,000, yeah, not good. But I remember sitting in that room watching Harry Potter box set. That's all we had, no cable. And just hating my existence, and I was eating handfuls of Klonopins at the time, and it wasn't working. That pain from my son's death, the pain from me living the existence I did for so long, that pain just kept bleeding through that wall of the chemical wall that I had been using as a protective shield. It wasn't good enough, and I remember sitting there and actually making a conscious decision. I needed to kill myself or change. That was all the options I had left on the table. I was backed up into a corner. Nothing else. This was not working for me anymore. Everything I used to escape myself was no longer there. It didn't work. So I made the decision, and I thought I was going to do it. I went to rehab. I went to one of the local rehabs here, made it 50 days, got kicked out because I tried to start a relationship in rehab, and those are always positive. Why work on me when I can distract myself with something else?
Take a hostage. Why not?
Take a hostage, or I might have been the hostage. You never know in those situations. I'm not gender biased when it comes to hostage taking. So I got kicked out in 50 days, ended up going back to jail a couple times, ended up getting shingles from stress. Like, I didn't even know. I've seen commercials with old people, no offense, but mostly, and they're like, it's from stress. And the Butler County Jail wouldn't take me. They released me because I had it. I was like, I'm dying. If the jail let me out, I'm dying.
Yeah, that
and
happen.
The local hospital gave me Vicodin. I was like, I'm definitely dying because I had burned that bridge at the hospital. My leg could be severed. They'd be like, here's the Tylenol. Good luck. Because I'd been there probably 30 times with fake ailments, and I had the whole walk down with a bad back. We get pretty good at learning what to say and everything. But so I got there, and I went back to rehab one more time, and 50 days. I'm in there, it's like 35 days in, and on the front page of the local paper, it says felony warrant with my face on it. I had partaked in acquiring of pharmaceuticals illegally with having prescription pads and things like that. And 3.5 years later, they filed the charges. I was like, and you know how we justify this. I look back how just entitled I was. I'm in rehab trying to change my life around. Shut up.
I mean, that's the common thing. I know working in rehab now, like I'll get people, you know they're going to go easy on me because I'm in rehab now, and like they know I want to change my life. I'm like, yeah, but do you?
You think you're the only one that's ever said this to those people? Like you're the anomaly to this.
Yeah.
So I made a decision to turn myself in. I actually left rehab 50 days in. My sponsor that I have today, I met there. That's a whole other time for another episode. Pretty funny. I had to humble myself and ask him. But I got out, went to my sister's house. I had roughly a handful of Klonopin still left. Stashed, because, we ain't trying to really. I will get sober, but I mean off of the heroin, not everything, but the stuff that's causing me the most problems, I'll check them off the list, but not everything. I took some of those with me into the jail. I had a whole nice book bag, everything, some tobacco, like a Cub Scout. I was going prepared. And I went there 6/12 of 15. My sobriety date is 6/15 of 15 because I was intoxicated for the first 48 hours I was in the county jail. And I don't count that. I didn't get sober until the 15th because that was the last day that I'd had nothing left. I remember it, and I was like, oh my God, I have to do jail sober. Because, you see, active addiction Jason commits all the crimes, and sober Jason does all the jail time. I always thought that was a shitty trade-off, that sober Jason was willing to sacrifice. Yeah, sober Jason will do that jail time. I'm going to get high right now. I've been on camera. I attempted to rob Eaton Park one time trying to get a milkshake. They called me the Smiley Cookie Bandit for 18 months in the county jail. That's one of my highlight reels. I tried to steal a fax machine back in the 90s, all drunk once. Thanksgiving Eve, the cops come to my house. They knock on my door. My mother wakes me up. They ask me where it is. Thanksgiving, family's coming over. I point to the closet. They find it. They leave. We'll send you charges in the mail. And I went right back to bed. 0 F's given. You know what I mean? Like, this is just the mentality that I had. But once I went to jail in 15, I had this epiphany. In 15, I'd have been 38 years old. Drugs and alcohol were my problem. like, I had defended drugs and alcohol like an abusive relationship. Like, every time I'd get out of jail, it would be whispering in my ear, it would be different. I won't hurt you this time. We'll just do it on Fridays or Saturdays. I've been the only one there for you this whole time in your life. You're going to get rid of me in your time of need? And every time I'd fall for that bullshit, and it would beat my ass. Every time. And every time I'd welcome it back with open arms, expecting a different result, and end up in the same jackpot. But this time, in the jail cell, I was like, drugs and alcohol are my issue. So I applied to get drug court here in Butler, got denied. I still hold this resentment. I have to work on that one. I'm in jail with some of the usual suspects too, and they're all getting it. Yeah. And I'm like, how bad are you that these people are getting it and they're denying you? So I got lucky, and at the time, the public pretender, I'm not going to call it, the person that pretends to be your defense attorney, ended up becoming a district attorney. So I got this person that hadn't been beat down by the system, was actually still trying to work for people, and they reapplied, and I got it. And I got into drug court and went to rehab in Indiana for 45 days, went to a halfway house out in Altoona, came back, lived in a recovery house for like a year, hit the ground running. Nothing stops me but me today. It's me versus me. There's nothing, no excuses. Winners make adjustments, losers make excuses, man. I have zero tolerance for excuses in my life. For me, I don't give them, nor do I take them. I have to live this definitive, though. I can't leave doors open or reasons, because I'll compile a list of what justifies me to do something, and next thing I know, I'm allergic to drugs and alcohol completely. This is my story. I'm not saying for other people. I can't smoke marijuana. I can't partake in alcohol. Alcohol will lead me to cocaine, which will lead me to an opiate, because I don't want to come down off of cocaine because I'm not a rookie. So I'll justify this, and I'll be back. Oh, I just won't use heroin for 3 days in a row because then I won't be sick. Said me 50 times. I've tried to detox myself on Suboxone, like writing lists, like I'll do 2 today and 1.5. I've tried to detox myself off a brick of heroin before, writing down a schedule. Day 1, 10 bags. Day 2, 8 bags. I've never made that in my life, but I've done it 5 or 6 times. Like, I've convinced this time it'll be different. So I got out. I'm for MATs, but they weren't part of my story. They kept me alive long enough. I was on Suboxone a couple different times prescribed, and I was on methadone a couple times. And though at that time I wasn't ready, they definitely kept me in the game long enough to get it where I'm at today. I hit the ground running, abstinence-based. Alcoholics Anonymous is a big part of my personal story. I do believe that there are many different pathways, as long as it's a pathway on bettering myself, helping other people, remaining teachable, and just continuing to evolve as a human being as we go. I don't believe in, I'm never going to make it. When I say I'll never use again, people sometimes get offended. If I continually do what I've done for the last 9.5 years, research and development have proven to me that this system works. That when I'm faced with adversity today, I seek out what the solution is, or how can I make the situation better. I might not be able to change it, make it, like, how can I grow from this situation? That's been an amazing turn of event for me. Just growing, sometimes just growing from something. Things suck, life sucks sober. I had that misconception too. You get sober, you're like, everything's going to be great, my life's going to be lovely, and then you get faced with adversity and you're like, wait a minute, this wasn't in the catalog. Yeah, it turns out life shows up with or without my permission today, and I accept that that's going to happen. I try to influence my future, but ultimately realize I don't control it. But I definitely try to influence. I consider the future Jason when I make decisions today, which I've never done. I consider the future me. I make decisions today that don't benefit me immediately. In fact, sometimes they take away from me immediately, but they flourish. I plant seeds that end up, and that's what I've managed to do. I currently have 3 businesses. I made my own programming for drug and alcohol. I created my own program. It has like emotional intelligence. It has a bunch of different things in there, from CBT, RBT, DBT, emotional intelligence, some kind of 12-step motivational. It's got a bunch of things that I just incorporated into one, because I thought I didn't want to see people not be able to get sponsors based on their using of MATs. I didn't want people to feel like they're ostracized.
Do we want to go down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, not too deep, but I didn't want...
Listen, I'm 100% with you, man. I get irritated when I go to the meetings. I have a good friend of mine that he, just like you just said, right? Because you just pointed out and said, like, I wouldn't be here if this didn't keep my life alive. And
absolutely.
like when I first got clean, MATs weren't a thing. The only thing that was around was methadone,
Yes.
right? But like I always say, like, by the grace of God, I didn't have like Suboxone or something like that, because I would have been on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would have prolonged me, or it might have helped me. I don't know, right? I don't know, so I can't speak to that. But I have a good friend of mine, man, that I love dearly, and you know, he did take MATs because that's what he needed to be able to get to where he is today. And like it pissed me off more than anything when I walked into a meeting and he was like, I need to get a sponsor. I was like, I can't sponsor you because like we're like,
too close.
We're too close. Like you're my best friend. Like I can't do it. I was like, but this man's got some sobriety time. Like maybe he can sponsor you. And he walked up and he said, and it made me look at people different.
Yes.
He walked up and he said, hey, you know, will you sponsor me? And they looked at him and he was like, well, I can't sponsor you because you're on Suboxone. And I was like, excuse me. I was like, hold up. I was like,
You're the gatekeeper now?
yeah, I was like, this is fucked up. Like, we can't tell people that. Like, that's not fair because that pushes away, you know, and it did. Because I watched it with him where he was like, man, fuck that shit. And I was like, no. I was like, you know what? I guess I am going to sponsor you then. I was like, fuck it.
Didn't have a
what
choice.
What other choice do I have? You know what I mean? And, you know, and thank God, like, he found his pathway to recovery. And, like, he found, you know, obviously he found AA.
Yeah.
And he found where, you know, he's no longer on MATs. And, like, he's, you know, many, many years of sobriety time. But it was because of that MAT. You know what I mean? And I hate when I walk into these meetings and I hear that from people. Because I'm like, who the fuck are... Like, I can't imagine looking at somebody and being like, you know what? You don't do what I like you to do, so therefore I can't sponsor you. Like, that's crazy.
It's the Bloods, Crips, and Latin Kings of the recovery community. You've got the Alcoholics Anonymous that can't stand Narcotics Anonymous. Not all of them, because a lot of it is more intertwined today. But when I first got in it, it was like the Bloods and Crips. They were just back and forth. And then all of a sudden the Latin Kings or the MAT group comes in, and that's the only thing that they can agree upon at first, that this isn't real recovery, you shouldn't claim this. And although I've seen some negatives, I've seen people sell their scripts. I used to sell my scripts.
Yeah.
I've seen these negatives.
With every positive, you have a negative.
But there are people, and I have seen with my own eyes, there's a gentleman that I'm thinking of right now, just moved out of my house, got a GED, just got his certified recovery specialist. He has chronic pain. So, yeah, he's got chronic pain, and he chooses to use Suboxone as his pain relief / thing, because anything else he could take off and run. In fact, he made this sentence to me the other day. He said, one Xanax would make my life better. Unfortunately, I can't use one Xanax. So I just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I couldn't even give somebody, because I could relate to this. I have an anxiety disorder. I could probably get them. And here's what would happen. I would give somebody my bottle, and I'd say, keep an eye on these, give me one. And I'd take that one. As soon as I felt that feeling, I'd instantly start looking for other people that had scripts. That way my bottle count stayed the same. Because my mind's always looking to beat systems instead of using my strengths. I'm 100% agreeance with you. I don't want to... Turns out there's sick people in these rooms. No matter how much time you got.
Amen.
They're still sick. I love the phrase, I hate the phrase actually, progress not perfection, which has never been told to me once correctly. Never. I've never heard it correctly. It's always to justify some bullshit behavior. Someone's always like, yeah, I have 2 girlfriends, but it's progress, not perfection. At least I'm not using drugs. No, progress, not perfection is to be said to yourself, not to other people. It's to tell yourself, I know you're not where you want to be, but you're not where you used to be. And you need to have compassion for yourself. People use it as a screen. This is that manipulation of our brain where we take positive things, distort the shit out of them, and use them to hurt ourselves. And because I've just seen it. And that's just one of the things I've seen distorted where it's like, yeah, I know that I'm snorting Willie B's in the bathroom, but it's progress, not perfect. How you living? You know what I mean? Like, how are you living?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not a judgment thing. It's a majority of people that I find that I work with, which I've worked with 1,500 roughly in the community up to this point. A majority of people, once they get to this stage of my interaction with you, have already done enough research and development to prove to themselves that they shouldn't be the CEO of their life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, let me see your resume.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's why the program of recovery, I try not to use their initials.
Yeah.
But that's why I think I always tell people the steps are flawless.
They are flawless.
The steps work, man. They really work. The problem lies is when we try to control the steps for somebody else, even with myself, because I'm wrong. Right?
Yes.
There's many times I'm wrong. Many times where like I have to challenge my own thinking, or somebody else will challenge my thinking, and I'll have to look at it differently, because we're wrong sometimes, right?
Emotionally attached.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Where it's like, well, I viewed it like this, so therefore it's got to be this, and like that's why like this is addiction to me is all about perception. It's my perception on life. It's my perception on reality. Sometimes it's fucked up. Sometimes it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you know, this is where like the steps, man, are flawless. They really work. And unfortunately, sometimes people get in there who have no business trying to tell somebody else how to work these steps.
That's exactly.
And because they're not working them. You know what I mean? Like, I'll see somebody like I don't know, like I'm not going to take relationship from advice from a guy who's married but has a mistress.
Yeah.
Right? So why would you do that with somebody in recovery?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the same concept, you know?
I agree with you 100%. I want to make sure that I definitely get this out. The 12 steps, it used to say, never have we seen a person fail that has followed our path. They switched it up and made it rarely because they wanted to give people at least some kind of compassion for themselves. But if you follow those to the best of your ability, you'll never use again. It's daily. In my personal viewpoint, because, and I mean really, but what I've come to find is I see people, and I don't want to go too long with this, I see people that have been to treatment so often they know how to become the character, the treatment character.
Yeah.
They become the actor. They know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. They become the big book toting kind of person, the Joe Recovery. They called me that, by the way. They become these people, and unfortunately, they don't ever get to come from here to here. These two never connect because they're only saying things based on what other people will think, not what they think of themselves. Yeah. So they don't even realize they're acting. Like, it's so entrenched that they need to be these people.
I've been that person.
Yes.
I sat in rehab and did that before, where I sat in rehab and I knew what to tell my counselor because I'm a system kid. I grew up in the system, and
yes.
I've been in juvie since, I mean, I never did high school. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I get it. We all learn what to say, so. But that's a good topic. I'll let you take that one to your podcast.
Yeah, I don't want to run with that too far.
I'll come on and debate that one with you. I'd love to do that.
I'll finish up with where I'm at today. Where I'm at today is we have 5 recovery houses here in Butler. I created that program because I'm not trying to make my own 12. I just wanted to create something that maybe could increase the odds of people
I think it's awesome.
obtaining and maintaining sobriety. I wanted to innovate on some things because we talked about earlier, I don't accept the fact that the numbers are what they are. I think if I diligently try to enhance or improve upon things that are currently there, and we can lessen this numbers even by 2%, that's 2% of these people that are still alive. People still got their brothers, sisters, mothers. It's worth it to me to attempt. I have a wife today. I have a car. I own a house. I drive legally. I accepted I'd never drive. I had got underage drinking when I was 15. I parlayed that up until I was 41 years old. I had to go take the driver's test with a 16-year-old kid. I was scared to death because if this kid passes, I had been driving illegally because I catastrophize. And I'm like, what if you fail? Well, thank you. You know what I mean? What if this isn't a panic attack? What if it's an actual heart attack? And you're like, oh, thank you, brain. Sometimes my brain's out to get me. But I'm okay with not being okay today. And these are only some of the rewards that I've gotten from being sober. I've got friends in my life. I'm responsible, which is weird to me. People look up to me and ask me for suggestions. And none of this would have happened, I think, if I didn't have a group of people around me that told me what I needed to hear and didn't give a shit what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, amen.
That's for me. And life is good today. I go to therapy still. I'm still involved in therapy. I am involved in a recovery center that we just opened up here. We're trying to get that up and running for Butler. I'm an advocate. I try to be involved as much things as possible. And I also got to remember there is a God and it's not me. And try not to take life too seriously. I'm blessed that I got to do this with you today because I've heard about you and like we share some similar things and like I try to remain open-minded to things, but I don't know. Sometimes I just I don't know everything, so I need to investigate and not be contempt before investigation.
Yeah.
So. But I enjoy my life today. I never would have dreamed in a million years I'd be sitting on this couch with you 9+ years of sobriety and with a bright future ahead of me based on whatever I invest into it. You couldn't have convinced me 10 years ago that this would be the case, and it happened rather quickly. And I just kept rinsing and repeating, kept just not picking up. And I don't judge people because believe me, for 28 years, you know what I mean? I could have passed lie detector tests in jail that I was never using again. That old jail through the glass. I'm done, and I mean it, and I did.
Well, yeah,
but once some doors opened up.
Believe it. Yeah.
So, and now my mission today is to try to help increase the number of people that obtain sobriety and stay in sobriety or recovery or whatever word that people are using. You know. That's really my mission for today, and enjoy my family. That's pretty much how I'm living today. But I appreciate getting to do this.
Yeah,
good conversation.
I appreciate you coming on. So, as always, you know, could have been anywhere in the world today. You chose to stick it out here with us for these 48 minutes, so I greatly appreciate you. I hope that you were able to get something from Jason's story today where you can stay sober for just one more day, because that's all it's about. If you can stay sober just one more day, tomorrow looks a little bit brighter, if we can just get through the day. So, and I know sometimes that first 24 hours sober is damn near impossible. So if you didn't hear anything here today, you know, please keep tuning in. If not, you know, hey, call somebody for support. Somebody reach out to somebody, though. Pick up the phone and call someone. Don't call the dope man. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.